How's it going? Air 1 1989. I'm going to show you kind of how what I've done. So, like Genius says here, it's very simple. You have a check zone that's a certain size, in my case, 5,000 meters. And then from there, we're looking for a particular coalition. In my case, I'm looking for Axis planes. And then you connect it up to a 1 second timer here, and then that 1 second timer says, hey, they're spotted in a particular grid. But I've added a little bit more logic, and that's why I wanted to show it to you. So I actually have this another timer MCU here, and I'm calling this a switch because it's basically turning on or off this particular check zone. So in our case, I have these little spotter campsites at every single check zone. Some places actually have ships. Let's see, I think up here, yeah, so you have a radar ship. And so what happens is if a plane or if an enemy plane destroys this spotter campsite, then we'll wait 100 milliseconds, and then we'll deactivate only this particular check zone by deactivating this timer. Right, so the check zone might still fire, but because the timer is disabled, no other pulses will go through, meaning that this 1 second timer will never fire and this subtitle will never fire. So if a player kills this particular vehicle, then this particular check zone is knocked out. Of course, all the other check zones will fire, and so on and so forth. Another thing I've added too is once this check zone fires, we'll go to another one, right? So let's say this check zone fires and it tells the player, hey, they're in this particular grid. Then we have a node or a pulse going to this from this MCU to this 5 second timer. Okay, it's also going to this deactivate. So what happens is as soon as a player enters this check zone, I immediately deactivate not only this particular check zone or this particular yellow circle, but I deactivate all of them. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and all of them. And then I will wait 5 minutes, and then I reactivate all of them again. So what this does is if a player flies through this check zone, right, we'll wait 5 minutes, even if another player flies through this one or flies through this one or flies through this one or even this one or this one over here, it doesn't matter. We're going to wait 5 minutes before we start sending out messages again. This way we're not annoying the player, and then we're also not confusing them, right? Because we have a bunch of these all over the place, and we're saying, hey, they're in this grid. Oh, no, 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 they're in this grid. Oh, no, they're in this grid. You know, it's kind of confusing to the player. So instead, we'll say, hey, they're in this grid, and then we'll wait 5 minutes. And if a player flies through this one, then we'll say, oh, they're in this grid now, kind of thing. So that's this logic right here. The next thing we have is our radar towers themselves. So I have a group of 7 NDB vehicles. That's this little guy right here. It looks like a little radar tower, and you can use them for transition or setting up like your how to get back to the base or radios and all that sort of stuff. But for me, I just have them as just entities, right? They're just an entity that looks like a radar. And the idea is here that the player destroys 5 from this sort of radar series and 5 out of the 7 from this radar series. And then we'll disable all of the radars, all of them, and they can't be turned back on anymore. So it's kind of cool. So the players can decide, hey, we'll destroy the radar towers. Maybe they have to destroy just individual spotters. Or maybe they don't do anything and then they just get spotted every 5 minutes depending on where they are. So hopefully this is helpful to you. I'll give you guys this group, let you look at it, reverse engineer it, and so on and so forth. It worked well for me, and hopefully it'll work well for you. If you have any questions, by all means, let me know. Have a good one.